Hi, I'm Angel with FleeceFun.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make the Thankful apron, a cute, classy apron that has a little bit of sassiness to it. For this project, you will need the following. You'll need the printed up free PDF pattern that's available on FleeceFun.com. You'll need 1.5 yards of cotton, 1 yard of fabric A, and a half a yard of fabric B, rotary cutter, ruler, and mat, cording, and this is optional, thread, and iron. And iron is very important for this project. All right, once you have all those pieces, it's time to get started. Now, be sure to wash and dry the cotton that you're going to use, as aprons tend to get washed a lot, so you're going to want to be sure that you do that before you start sewing on it. It's just a courtesy thing, and you don't want to start out with one size and end up with another. So be sure to wash and dry the cotton especially that you're going to be using. You will need to cut out the pattern. You'll cut out the pattern pieces. You'll need to cut 2 of the top, 1 of the front, and 1 of the liner. Note that the front bodice piece you cut where the dotted line is, so it's going to be a little bit shorter than the back bodice piece or the lining bodice piece. In addition to the top, you'll need to cut the following. You'll need to cut 3 of the neck strap waist strap piece. Be sure to set on the fold where it says to in the pattern. You'll need to cut down the second neck strap, the shorter one, and again, be sure to place this on the fold, so just follow the directions on the pattern. You'll then need to cut the skirt. Using a rotary cutter, cut across the full width of the fabric to make the skirt. The length you desire is up to you. In the example that I'm sewing, I chose to keep it a little bit shorter, so it's about 18 inches long. If you want to make an apron with a belt, like in the example that I'm showing, the strip of fabric at the waist that you can see, you'll need to cut 1 more of the neck strap, okay? And again, place that on the fold. Once you've cut out all those pattern pieces, it's time to start sewing. You're going to take the large rectangular, the skirt part of the skirt, and you're going to turn it under 1/4 inch twice, press it, and iron the edges of the rectangle. Now, if you are cool enough just to be able to sew this, hey, you are much better than I am, but I actually need to do a little trick, which is I sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around once, and then away from the thread I just made, that seam I just made, well, it's not a seam, it's that line of thread I just made, I sew another 1/4 inch in. So I have basically these lines already on the fabric for me to see. Then I'm going to take them and I'm going to iron them under once, along that, turn it, iron along that again, so it's turned under twice, and then I'm going to sew it down. It's a really nice way of finishing the edges. It just makes it so the pattern itself is extremely durable, so I highly recommend doing this. If you have a serger, you can finish it off that way, but since I don't, I use my sewing machine, and this is a great way to give longevity to a garment. Now that you've done that with the skirt, you're going to do it with the 2 waist strips. Okay, so not the strip that goes across the bodice piece, but the 2 strips that are the ties. And what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing we did with the skirt. So you're going to sew along the edge 1/4 inch in, then you're going to sew 1/4 inch in again from that seam you just made. You're going to turn it under twice, iron it so it looks good, and then you're going to sew it down using a straight stitch, and that just really finishes the edges nicely. Now, one thing that is very, I would say, crucial about this pattern in particular is ironing. You really need to take time and iron all these pieces nicely. I know it's a pain, it's not my favorite, I hate dragging out the iron, but it is crucial for success with this pattern. So take your time, iron all the pieces that I'm telling you to, and you should be okay. And it gives the apron such a nice crisp look too, and it makes things a lot easier to sew on. Okay, we're going to prepare the neck straps. The 2 neck straps are not the same length on purpose. This is by design. It's part of the pattern to have the bow on the side rather than at the back of the neck. Taking the 2 strips that will be the neckties, fold them right sides together. So it makes one strip that's approximately 1.75 inches wide, and then sew all along that length using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Using safety pin on the end, you're going to turn it right side out. And you're going to repeat this with the other strip. And again, just take a second and press the strip so it'll look nice. And then tuck in the raw ends of the strip in and of itself about 1 inch, and then just top stitch that shut. All right, once you have that done, set it aside. Let's get started on the next step. Now it's time to prep the bodice. So what you're going to do is turn the bottom lining under 1 inch and press. If you're making the waistband, you're going to hold it up to the bodice and trim it to the correct length. Then you're going to turn the top edge 0.5 inches under and press it down, and then add the cording at this time. If you're adding the belt, you're going to sew it on to the front piece at this time. So just pin it thoroughly, then top stitch it into place, about 1/4 inch in from each edge, from the top edge. Okay, great. Now that you got that done, it's time for the next step. Now it's time to start to bring it all together. Take the skirt part of the apron, make a basting stitch at the top of the rectangle, the 40-inch long side, and near the edge about 1/4 inch, gather to the length of the bottom bodice. With right sides together, pin the bottom of the bodice and sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. We're getting close to bringing it all together. Hang in there with me. Let's get on to the next step. All right, next step. Pin the neck and the waist tie straps to the side of the bodice on the right side of the fabric. Sew on the straps using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This is just to give them extra reinforcement. Please note the side with the shorter neck strap is the side that the bow will be on. Pin the straps out of the way so they don't get caught in the seam allowance when we add the backing of the bodice, which is what we're about to do. Okay, great. Last step where we can bring it all together. Now it's time to attach the lining of the bodice. Then pin the lining to the back of the bodice, right sides together. The strap should be sandwiched in between the lining and the front of the bodice. Then you're going to sew all the way around the bodice from one side to the other, leaving the bottom where the bodice meets the skirt open. Okay, this is the section that you ironed under. You're going to make sure you leave that open. Okay, so all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, then you are going to turn it right side out. You're going to make sure that everything looks nice. Then you're going to pin the bottom lining, the part that is not attached, to the front of the bodice to hold it in place. And you're going to top stitch all the way across the bodice, a 1/4 inch from the edge. And this should sew the bottom shut. Trim your threads and you're finished. You have a great classy looking apron that is great to bring out for holidays. You can make one for everyday use. It is just a good apron to have around. If you like this pattern, I have several patterns on my website you might also like. Just because it's Fleece Fun doesn't mean it's all fleece. You might also like the baking outside the box apron. It's in child size, perfect for your little baker. I also have a bib with or without a pocket, also perfect for your messy little kid. Have a great day, and remember, velvet is pretentious, fleece is fun.